What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. What we have going on right here, we have this tropical wave that has just emerged into the main development region. Already looks incredibly healthy as we are speaking. Already showing some signs of rotation. We're going to go ahead and show you the visible shortwave. Right here, you can, if we can get this pulled up, you can already see that rotation is starting to begin, some broad rotation starting to initiate as we speak right here. So already off the bat, we're looking at a very healthy tropical wave. There is some dry air to the north that's going to be battling for the next few days. Now, it's in a pretty good position. There's low shear. There's moderate to light dry air, so it shouldn't have that many issues going forward. Now, we're going to go ahead and show you some model runs because we've been seeing some stuff that has been pretty interesting. We're starting to see more of a split in the models depending, not exactly if this is going to develop or not, but where this thing will go. So the models with the European to start with, we're going to go ahead and start with that. You start seeing this wave coming off the coast of Africa. It's trying to organize and develop. However, things start to get a bit interesting here because the European is actually having this wave moving through the Greater Antilles, the Lesser Antilles, and moving through Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and potentially Cuba as it continues to move through. This is that wave we have going on. It's around this general area by the time we get there. It's about 10 days out as it approaches Cuba. So that's an interesting scenario that I've been looking at right here. This is 10 days out, keep in mind, and there is once again a split in the models on where this thing will go. And we'll go ahead and show you the icon run because the icon's also been in agreement with the European so far. This is what we have for the 12Z of the icon. This is that tropical wave that I was talking to you guys about. It's moving. It's expected to move either in the Caribbean or through the Greater Antilles. This is 180 hours out, so please do keep that in mind as we continue to talk about this. But for now, the Euro and the icon have this thing moving through the Antilles, and the reason this is so significant, in my opinion, is let's say this thing doesn't. Let's say the Bermuda High weakens, and this whole tropical system's weak enough to basically keep moving west. Let's say it does that much, and then let's say it enters the Gulf. The water temperatures, the sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are very piping hot, 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, and even more in some areas of the Gulf, including the Gulf Stream. So let's say this thing moves through here, moves through the Leeward Islands, moves through Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and then through Cuba right here. Let's say then then this thing gets really organized and then starts to develop. If it can do it quickly, it can capitalize off that warm air. And based on some of the shear forecasts we're going to show you, it's looking to me, it's looking like it's going to be in a prime area of development by the time it gets there. That's something we'll have to pay attention to right there. And also, look at the ocean heat content. This is where we're at right here as of today, August 12th. If it moves this more southerly route that the European and Icon are calling for, particularly the Icon, it has it moving a little bit through the Caribbean, south of Puerto Rico into the Dominican Republic. It's moving through a lot better conditions for development with the warm water and better ocean heat content. Some of it's cracking 125 OHC. So that's a lot of fuel for these things right here. And if we even take a look at the wind shear today isn't that impressive as we get into the Caribbean right here. However, if we go down the road with the European forecast right here, we're going to go ahead and pull up the 0Z right here. And all this wind shear starts weakening, and there's a broad area all around here of little to no wind shear. So that's moving through decent conditions of development. There appears to be a little bit of shear moving through as it gets there, but that's more due to inflow and outflow than anything. So I'd say the shear is going to be around maybe 20 knots instead of 50 as we're seeing over there, which is pretty interesting. Although by the time it does enter the Antilles, there could be some increased shear that according to the European does start to develop. But by the time it gets to the Gulf of Mexico, it shouldn't be that much of an issue, and we'll go ahead and show you the GFS right here. The shear doesn't become that particularly big of an issue. It does have a little bit of shear going into it. By the time it really gets into the Gulf of Mexico, the wind shear weakens considerably, and there's a lot more moist air by the time we get into that. So that's the situation we have going on on that front over there. Now we're going to go ahead and show you the CMC model, because the latest run came out, and this is absolutely shocking, and this is another scenario that we're looking at. This is the CMC we have pulled up right here. The CMC has this organizing and developing starting in the next 3 days, and then starting to strengthen into a tropical storm by the next 5. So this thing continues. It starts developing a pretty good pressure gradient right here, starts intensifying into a strong tropical storm and maybe a Category 1 hurricane before approaching the Leeward Islands right there. It then moves a bit north, maybe clipping the northern Leeward Islands and maybe the Virgin Islands, but it moves north of the Antilles and starts to really ramp up in intensity. Gets down to 980 millibars right there, which pressure-wise is equivalent to around a category high-end Cat 1, low-end Category 2 hurricane. We can actually go ahead and zoom in on this in the tropical Atlantic, actually. We can go ahead and zoom on this in the western Atlantic and get an 850 millibar heightened wind. 850 millibar heightened wind. We're looking at some values over 90 knots in there, which that's indicative of a high-end Category 1 hurricane at on the surface. About 90 knots of wind at 850 millibars, which is about 5,000 feet up, is if you take the standard deduction, it's a little over 90 miles per hour on the surface. So definitely something we need to monitor going forward. And it brings up another scenario where, let's say this thing develops and then moves north of the Antilles. It's going to be moving through pretty decent conditions if we take a look at the warm waters. By the time this thing starts getting up north and starts really ramping up in intensity, it's not even cracking the 30 degrees Celsius temperatures yet. So that's pretty interesting going forward right here. And the OHC, while not as much, it's definitely a lot more consistent going forward. And the wind shear, at least for now isn't perfect, but by the time we get up to there, which is about 8 days out, I mean, the European is still calling for a bit of shear, but this is mainly due to that whole system that's going on over here. It's mainly due to the inflow. I don't have the graph for the CMC. I don't think they have. Actually, they do have wind shear, and as you can see, there is some apparent wind shear, but it's mainly due to outflow and all that stuff, so definitely something to pay attention to. And we're going to go ahead and show you some ensemble runs. We'll go ahead and show you the European ensemble right here, and the European ensemble is quite confident that this thing is going to develop. Here's what we have. We have so many scenarios of potential development according to the European model right here. However, the European ensembles have been taking it on more of a northward track. Some of them do take it on, the weaker systems do take it on a southward track, which is kind of enhancing that split, which basically is telling me that if we're going to see a weaker storm, this system's going to mainly stay to the south after that Bermuda high weakens. But if we see a stronger storm, it's going to definitely push up north and potentially either stay out to sea or make a close impact to the east coast right here. But let's say the system stays weaker long term, then it can enter the Gulf and potentially organize and intensify over there. So there are several scenarios we have to pay attention to right here. But we're going to go ahead and close the video right here with this disclaimer. Take all these runs with a grain of salt. Nothing is set in stone, and we'll keep you updated here. One thing I'm going to go ahead and start doing, shout out to Graham Johnson. He wanted a weather forecast from the St. Louis area. So what we're looking at least for tomorrow, we're looking at the probability of some thunderstorms. We're not 100% sure if they're going to be severe or not. We'll keep you updated on that. On Monday, it's going to be nice. It's going to be sunny. Temperatures are supposed to be in the mid-80s to lower 90s, so it shouldn't be that terrible other than the thunderstorms. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. But with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.